This has got to be one of the biggest free updates that I've ever experienced. They just added in full co-op, new zones, new trophies, new guns, new bosses, new everything inside of Returnal for zero freaking dollars. But I want to talk about what this update actually is and why it is so exciting. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and I have been playing a lot of this morning, and I want to begin by just saying a special thank you to the subscribers. All of the co-op you see in this is people that watch the show. Talking to you guys was really cool, but honestly, this game was just so fun to play with you. But let's talk about how these things work, beginning with the co-op, and then I want to talk about the Ascension Tower, which is a new endless difficulty mode that exists that you have to play by yourself. Now let's talk about the co-op, because this is the thing that I think very fundamentally and very drastically improves the Returnal experience. Now, if you haven't played Returnal, essentially the way this game works is that we are an astronaut that gets stuck on this planet that is constantly evolving. Every time you die on this planet, you're reborn and crash once again. Now, this planet is extremely hostile. It's constantly trying to switch around its environments, its enemies, its tentacle-filled monsters. But you need to evolve in the process of it. In order to survive this apocalyptic wasteland, you need to change your strategies, but you're also going to be getting randomized weapons, different shotguns, machine guns, laser rifles, and stuff like parasites, which give you temporary big buffs, making it so you can have more damage, more attack, or do things like dash more often. The game is very, very good, but something I saw on Twitter, a lot of people complaining about, is that the game can be difficult. A large chunk of this difficulty definitely originates from that randomness. I mean, the fact that you cannot properly plan out any run of the game itself means that you're sort of at a whim to the algorithm. In a way, if you got unlucky and got weak guns or bad bonuses, sometimes you'd be completely screwed. Well, this new co-op update very fundamentally changes the nature of the core gameplay of Returnal. You see, a lot of times, skill can now carry you a lot further. With a second person to back you up, being able to have two sets of gunfire on all of these very, very tough enemies at times, it makes things easier. But more than that, I think that it's very, very crazy that these enemies seem to only understand a single astronaut at once. When they're looking at you, your buddy can shoot them in the back. A lot of times, once you knock them over, these enemies typically have big glowing weak points. If you shoot them in their heart or lightsaber their guts or something, it can do double or even triple damage. And to be quite frank, playing this co-op, it felt drastically easier because a lot of times you can just double or triple team their weak spots to take down even the toughest foes in a relatively short amount of time. But there's also an additional layer to this, which is that death is not quite so punishing now, because typically when you died in the main game, you instantly restarted the entire run. Even if you spent 3 or 4 hours trying to level up your character, once you go to 0 health, the game restarts. That's not the case. In co-op, it has a down system. If you go to 0 health, you actually go to this like standby state, and your partner can come and revive you. Now, this is very situational. I'll be honest, a lot of times once my buddy died, it was very hard to save them because there's usually just so much enemy fire, so many laser beams, so many different creatures. You could really only start to revive people once the enemy room was clear, or if it wasn't a boss fight. Like, you might be thinking that this would be much easier for the bosses specifically because those guys can be incredibly tough. Well, it does make it slightly easier because the bosses have an additional target, and obviously you're doing double the DPS, but it's still hard. I'm not going to act like this makes the entire game an instant cakewalk, but honestly, it's a lot more exciting. You have to be much more group-minded during this co-op mode, not just because you're trying to watch your teammates back or really just prey upon an open weak spot, but additionally, there is an interesting system of shared resources. And what I mean by that is that stuff is not for you alone. If you're playing co-op and somebody's trying to pick up a health kit, there will be only one health kit. So like, you can't both pick up a single item, which means that when a real really good gun drops, you have to sort of talk it out to go, okay, is this better for you or is this better for me? And you actually have to try and do that with all of the resources, including the money. If you haven't played Returnal, there's a ton of currency that you can put into like these vending machines to buy bonuses. Now this stuff is incredibly useful. It can boost your amount of damage done, your defense, your total health. Like these bonuses are incredibly good. And being able to actually have another player there, you really have to try and discuss it. You have to actually have the strategy of, all right, how can we both get better? If hypothetically one of your friends is just trying to speed run the game and carry you through it so you can see the very, very, very good story, then maybe it would be more useful to give him all of the upgrades, all the guns, all the money so that he can be a super boss and carry you through this very chaotic time. I do want to say that this mode is so freaking great. If you have not played Returnal already, or you played it a little bit and you found it to be too difficult, playing it online is great. You can do matchmaking to instantly just group with any random player, or you can invite people specifically, so you can get one buddy to help you out instantly. It is exceedingly great. It helps actually progress your story. It is very, very fun. The person who joins you gets ether so they can unlock permanent upgrades for their character. Everybody wins. It is so great, but I want to talk about the other part of this new update because this is the completely new content that is very, very different. This is the Tower of Sisyphus. This is a newly introduced infinite dungeon that basically goes floor by floor up until infinity. Now in this, every couple levels, you're going to have to fight new bosses, new mechanics, and deal with some pretty heavy hits. Now the most important aspect of the Tower of Sisyphus that you should definitely know before you go into it: winning is impossible. It goes on forever. This is not something where you can just eventually reach the end and get some ending credits. It goes on and on and on. But as you're going, it constantly turns up the pressure very slowly, making it so that while you are earning millions of points, there's this very fun scoring system where the faster you take out enemies, the faster you clear floors, and the less you get hit, the more bonus points you get. Well, along with this, it is a matter of just trying to see how long you can survive. I have to say, this is really, really, really tight. Like, while I was playing this, it does feel like it starts off far easier than the single player ever is. Like, just in general, it feels like the first 10 floors of enemies, they have almost no health. I felt like I was practically one-shotting a lot of these guys, but as it goes in, it starts to mix together people from the different worlds. In the main story of Returnal, the game is divided into biomes. Now, each of the different biomes has different styles of enemies that may exist in deserts or tundras and stuff like that. Well, in the Tower of Sisyphus, screw the rules, they just shove everybody together. It's just big blobs of everybody combined. And as you're going through it, they're constantly getting harder and harder and harder. But you know what? It's just so fun. A lot of these floors actually only have like 5 or 6 enemies on them sometimes. You know, as you get deeper into it, some of them will have like 20. But I kind of appreciate that there are these very, very tiny focused, no filler content. It's just floor, elevator, floor. It teleports you straight from one location to the next. If you survive a particularly hard floor, you start to get bonuses. But there's also a very interesting roguelike nature to this. As you get further, you get a chance to choose between different permanent bonuses that last for this entire life. So you can do stuff to make like permanent increases to defense, more weapon damage, making it so that further parasites, which are like the buffs you find, they have better benefits. And it makes it so you have to choose. You can't get everything. You have to choose what you think is the most viable for your playstyle. And a lot of times it sucks in a fun way if you choose to like increase lightsaber damage and then you go against enemies that are so fast you can't lightsaber them. I really enjoyed the fact that the more I got deep into the Tower of Sisyphus, the more I kind of just sat there, jaw on the floor, about how brilliantly it's balanced. Like, it's crazy to me that this is a free update, not only because it's so big, not only because it's so fun, but also just because this feels like it was supposed to be in the game at the start. And I do mean that as a huge compliment. This feels like the ultimate addition. Like, this almost feels like Returnal 2 in ways. Like, the co-op and the Tower of Ascension are so different. They're so fun. The fact that they've added in new bosses, new trophies, new challenges. This is the best version of Returnal. A couple weeks ago, I tweeted out and said that I think that as more people find PlayStation 5s, people are going to be talking about Returnal the way a lot of PlayStation 4 people talk about Bloodborne. And I stand by that. This game is going to become an eternal classic. People are going to be talking about this game for years and years and years. And co-op is just improving the experience. Housemarque, I seriously cannot, I mean, this is amazing. The fact that this is free, seriously, the biggest salute. You guys rock. You have made this entire freaking week better. And if you have Returnal, install this update and play it. I 100% guarantee you will not regret it. Well, thanks so much for watching this video, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a giant thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Housemarque, if you want to make like a Returnal 2, I'm going to buy it. I'll pre-order it without even seeing a trailer. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.